Good morning. All right. So, what do you do in that moment when you feel your emotions kind of coming at you? And why is that even important to understand? I'm Jen Whitmer, and I help teams and leaders solve conflict and personality clashes. And today, we are going to give you a really practical, like in the moment hot tip on how to have emotional intelligence and emotional fluency. So, we build emotional intelligence over time. I am positive you have heard about the importance of emotional intelligence. If you haven't, come talk to me some more. But the importance of emotional intelligence means that you are really in command of your emotions. It does not mean that you are ignoring your emotions. It doesn't mean that you are not processing emotions. It doesn't mean that you think emotions aren't helpful. It means that you understand how to be in control of yourself and what is happening for you physically and emotionally. So it is you being kind of in charge of all the things that feel like this in your head. And we need that because if we allow our emotions to run away with us or we don't process them, we don't make very good decisions. We aren't connected to people, and we tend to ignore the emotions of others in the room, which then leads to just kind of a buildup that doesn't help anyone get anything done. So we hear about emotional intelligence and emotional fluency, but what do we do with that? And so in the moment, I want to give you a 3-step process to help you increase your emotional intelligence and your emotional fluency and really your self-control. That is what we're doing today. So when you feel that emotional burst, so somebody says something that just gets you riled up, or you get an email message, or that Slack notification comes up, or a news alert it comes through your phone, something gets you activated and you have an emotional response and you don't exactly know what to do now. So you could fly off the handle, you could run away, you can ignore it, but none of those are actually using the emotions to give you information or process through and allow the emotions to process through. So, but like, I don't have time to go journal for 20 minutes about how I feel. Yeah, we don't all have the time to do that in the moment. So, this is an in the moment way to start identifying and processing your emotions. Now, you can start really small with this practice I'm going to share. And over time, you can make it larger. You can then use it to journal. You then can use it to help others process their emotions as well. So, the first step that I want you to do is actually take a breath. I know we talk about breath a lot and the importance of breathing, but taking a deep breath, and probably 3, so for a full minute, can really get you back centered. It returns your nervous system to normal. It gets your brain out of what we call lizard brain, way back here, because it's not conserving oxygen. You have tapped the immediate fear down because your body is responding to what they think is a lion. And so taking those deep breaths helps you get in control. The next thing I want you to do is name and rate your emotion. So that's step 2. Name and rate your emotion. And when you name it, I want you to give it a name other than mad, sad, or glad. So those 3 are, yes, emotions, but they aren't very descriptive. And rarely do we have one emotion at a time. Almost always we have more than one emotion. So, oh my goodness, the comments just started coming in. Good morning, friends. Hello. I'm so sorry. This is what happens when I haven't had a full cup of coffee before LinkedIn Live. Okay, so when your husband leaves the boxes, yes, those things, or your child does something, all those things get you round up. So take your breaths. And then 2, I want you to name and rate those emotions. And to name them, I want you to get as specific as you can. And that means multiple emotions. So yesterday I had an experience. I went to the dentist. I was getting something because I'm grinding my teeth. Aren't lots of us doing that now? And I thought this would be covered by insurance, and it wasn't. So that was a bit of a shock and a surprise. So I'm standing there expecting to pay, in the double digits, not the triple digits. And I start breathing. I'm starting to breathe. And then when I get in the car, I'm starting to name and rate my emotions. So I am angry, I'm frustrated, I'm surprised, I was afraid. Those were the emotions I was experiencing. I wasn't just mad. I had an array of emotions. And then the intensity. So there's a couple ways you can rate the intensity. You can rate the intensity on a scale of 1 to 10. That's really easy for me. Some people like to rate it on like a stoplight scale. So green, yellow, red, but something that gives you an idea of the intensity of how you feel. And the reason this is important is because if we don't actually rate it, our emotions just start to get bigger, and we have less control over what we want to do with those emotions. So giving it a rating lets you have an accurate sense of how intensely am I feeling this, which almost immediately calms you down. So I rated my emotions yesterday around a 5. So it wasn't super intense, but it wasn't nothing either. And so that was right in the middle for me of intensity. Sometimes you'll rate your emotions and you realize, "Oh, I'm kind of at a 2." So I'm okay. And sometimes you rate your emotions and you're at a 9. You're at an 8. Say 8. Sorry, Brian Regan. You're that high, and that lets you know I might need more than just this quick exercise. I might need to excuse myself. I might need to take a little bit of time, but that rating tells you the intensity with which you feel your emotions. So you're going to take deep breaths. You're going to name and rate your emotions. And then the third step is really, I think, the secret sauce to emotional intelligence and fluency. Yes, insurance can get us pretty close to 10. I was kind of shocked. I was at a 5, actually. The third step, the secret sauce of naming and rating your emotions is finding them in your body. I know. You're like, but wait, I don't understand. Most of us experience our emotions through our minds, and that is not the full feeling experience. So it's a truncated experience of our emotions, and it doesn't allow them to fully process through. It's like something getting jammed in there if we're only using our minds. So find where you are experiencing those emotions in your body. And so when I was sitting in the car yesterday, I'm like, whew, okay, I'm surprised, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm afraid, I'm feeling at a 5, and I was feeling it just underneath my rib cage. That's where I was feeling this emotion. And once I identified that, oh, and behind my eyes, because I had like tears starting to well. And so once you find it in your body, you then have the opportunity to release it. And when you find it in your body, you start to then identify emotions over time. When you practice this, sometimes you can identify the emotions before you can cognitively identify the emotions. That body signal shows you what you're feeling, and you can take different actions earlier. And that is emotional intelligence. I know what I'm feeling right now, and I am in control of how I'm going to respond. And so, I mean, I could have shouted at the receptionist. Now, I had enough presence of mind to know that this wasn't her fault. This was insurance, like it wasn't that person in front of me. It wasn't her problem. But if I hadn't have started that process of emotional intelligence, I probably would have made some bad decisions. And that's what happens in conversations, in conflicts, and you get emotionally worked up, and then you react out of instinct rather than respond out of self-efficacy and self-control. And that's what we're wanting to do with emotional intelligence. We want to be the ones who are in charge of our emotions, allowing them to enter, but not be the ones who are in control. So some people like to say they get to ride in the car with you, but they don't get to control the radio. And I love that analogy. Like they're here and they can leave whenever they want, but they don't get to control my music. They're not in charge of the playlist. I get to be in charge of that. And that is emotional intelligence. Now, when we talk about emotional fluency, that means the ability to move the emotions through. So if you think about fluency of speech, somebody who just keeps talking without breathing, stuttering, saying ums, that's fluency. And so emotional fluency is once we've identified them, we've taken our breaths, we've named and rated, and we've found it in our body, the fluency is allowing them to pass through. And I had all of those emotions, and I could identify them in ways that showed me where I really was. And then I could do something about it. So in that moment, I actually decided to just let the tears come. I was in the car by myself. And then I could start making a different plan of, okay, how are we going to handle this? What's going to happen? And move more into that cognitive space. But I wasn't activated. I wasn't like all up here. I wasn't, panicky and just letting my emotions rule me. I experienced them. They gave me a clue to what to do, but I didn't let them control the playlist. That's emotional intelligence, emotional regulation, and fluency. So when you hear these words bandied about in leadership, that's what they're talking about. So this in the moment trick brings you to the place where you can see solutions, you can listen to the other person, you can make responses that are healthy and beneficial to you and to others. So I'm super curious, those of you who are here live, if you've heard this before, what do you think about this? What questions do you have about this concept of 1, 2, 3 to emotional intelligence and fluency? And often this happens sometimes in the moment when people are doing things, but often a little bit like what Shelby said, when you find something later and the person isn't there. And it's super easy to like get all worked up and you're like, ah, and then you might like send them a nasty text or pick up the phone or shout to the other room, which might not be the best choice to get you to a solution. But how do you know what to do? So once you've gone through this process and you've become in control of your emotions again, now you have a choice to make. You have the choice to, do I want to talk to somebody? Do I want to have what I call a caring confrontation? And that is what I have a free resource for you. It's called When to Confront, Know When to Have the Conversation. And it is a resource that will help you know when is it time and worth having that caring confrontation. How do I know that it is time? And so if you go to jenwhitmer.com/when to confront, or if you just go to the main page of my website, you can see that and you can get that resource for free. So Shelby's asking, how do we know if we're dwelling on an emotion or allowing ourselves to feel them? Excellent question. So dwelling on an emotion is something that has this negative connotation. What we want to make sure we're doing is processing. And before we can process it, we have to dwell on it a little bit. And that's why this process helps walk us through. So the feeling it is actually finding it in your body. So when I feel embarrassed or when I feel like foolish, when I have that emotion, I start to feel it in the back of my jaw. And that's pretty consistent for me. So I know in the back of my jaw, in like, oh, that's what's happening. And I can kind of allow myself to feel it. And then it starts to dissipate. And that's how you know that you're allowing it to process rather than dwelling on the emotion. Now, what sometimes happens is we start overthinking about the problem. And we're not really dwelling on the emotion of it, we're dwelling on the problem and how we think about it and what they did and this kind of like thing, which isn't really dwelling on the emotion. And some emotions are really, really big. If you have a large grief, it doesn't just dissipate really quickly. If you've lost if you've got that loss, and loss can be an opportunity all the way to somebody dear. And those losses take longer, but they come in kind of waves. And so you're not dwelling on it, you're dealing with the next wave that comes through. So I hope that answers your question. I love that question because sometimes we think we're dwelling on something that's feeling it, but we haven't actually felt it. We've just kind of ruminated on the problem. So great question. And that's actually what's really helpful about this resource, knowing when to confront, because there are 3 times when it's important to have that conversation. And when you know that, then you feel, if not confident, at least a little bit more secure in that I know that this is the right thing to do. So I hope you grab that. When to Confront. It's a free lesson. It has got a PDF download, a very short mini lesson, and some bonus materials on how to ask for that conversation. So go get that now. It's going to only be available through Monday. So make sure you grab it. And then it's coming down. The website is coming down. So today, just to recap, I can't help it. So if you're joining late, or if you just need that recap, the 3 steps to the in the moment hot take on this emotional intelligence and fluency is: 1, take those deep breaths. 2, name and rate the intensity of your emotion. And 3, find it in your body. And that will help you be in control of your own playlist today. All right, everybody, let me know if you've got more questions, and I will come back to the comments and answer them. I will see you later. Bye, everybody.